Good day, everybody. This is Martin John, and we once again start going back into the chapters of the Tao Te Ching. Today, we're looking at chapter 8, Be Like Water. Water is one of those things that, they talk about a lot in a lot of religious and spiritual texts. And you know, a lot of people like talk about it as like fill the cup that you're in and it's yielding and it will, you know, do all these things. But we look at it a little differently here. One, water in the Tao always talks about humility, right? Because it's always going to fall to the lowest place. But in this one, we're also talking about nourishment. And so let's get into the text and we'll look at what it has here and how we might turn the actions of water into actions for ourselves to take as we live our lives and go through things and all of that. Okay, so here we go. Water is humble, always traveling to the lowest place, nourishing without taxing everything along the way. In so doing, it is like Tao. The master aims to resemble water. In thinking, she is simple. In conflict, she is yielding. In governing, she doesn't need to control. In work, she does the obvious thing. In family life, she is continually present. When one can be content with being and not requiring comparison or praise, it is said they invest in their life by making of it a donation. This end, right, this part, like making your life a donation. Like think about what water does, right? Water comes down and it like seeps into the ground and will nourish any of the weeds and plants and trees along the way without judgment, right? So there's that humility. But then it continues to go down and down until it collects into a pool, into water, into a river, into the ocean, all of these things. Its life is simply to build this cycle, like down from the sky, down, 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 until it's collected or it is evaporated and evaporated into the air again. Just come back down. This end, when I was translating it, is so important. It's when you do not compare yourself, when you do not praise yourself and all that you have done or all that someone else has done, or compare someone else to you, or compare other people together, when you can stop doing all of that, well, then you can offer your life as a donation to everything you come across, right? Like in the beginning here, it says like nourishing without taxing. How many times do we get into a place where we nourish something, we support something, but we also want a little something back, right? Wanting a little something back, that's tax, right? I'll give you this, but I'm going to tax you, and I'm going to give you little digs here and there just to make sure that you owe me a little tax. And so, and then there's the whole like I want this, and in order for me to get that, I have to give you this, and there's this whole taxation that we exist like agreeing to without ever having agreed to it, right? But water is humble, always traveling to the lowest place. Everything it passes, it nourishes without taxing. It doesn't say, well, like you hear this thing, I'm going to give a homeless person $1, but I'm going to tell them you can't use it for drugs or alcohol. Well, why not? Well, who are you to tell me how to spend my money, right? Like you're taking this moral high ground, but you're not treating me with dignity or respect, right? You're taxing. So you think like, oh, I'm going to nourish you, but in order for me to do that, you have to prove to me that you're worth the nourishment I'm going to give you. Right? That's how we live today. So this is a really important verse, and when we get through it, like water is humble, always traveling to the lowest place, nourishing without taxing. Such an important line. right? I'm going to nourish, but I'm going to do that without offering attacks of any sort. Everything along the way, everything along the way. In so doing, it is like Tao. So that's the thing. These two things, don't tax anything. The master aims to resemble water. Now, these are 5 things that we bring up, right? In thinking she is simple. Does water's not trying to be like, do you deserve this? Am I going to, do I want to go this way or that way? I'm just going to go the way that I go. In conflict, she is yielding. If you hit water, boom, just splashes. It goes out of the way, right? It's not going to try and stop you. Of course, if you hit it hard, it's going to hurt, but it's still going to get out of the way. In governing, she doesn't need to control. When water's going down a river, it's just going to go in the direction that it goes, and it's not going to try and control. It's not going to try and reverse itself. It's not going to try and go uphill. In work, she does the obvious thing. If you put a wheel in the water is going to spin in the direction that it's flowing. It's not going to try and go around it. She's going to go, oh, well, let's just go this way. This is the obvious thing. Just keep going. Just do the obvious thing. In family life, she is continually present. Water doesn't separate itself from other water. Like naturally, it just kind of comes together. It's constantly present. But in our lives, we want to think simply. We want to think, this is simple. It's not so complex. You don't have to have proof. You don't have to have taxing. You don't have to have all this stuff. You just love people. That's it, simply. You just love them. You respect them. And as far as it goes for this verse, you nourish them. How can you nourish somebody? How can you nourish somebody without taxing today? You nourish somebody's life? Can you give them nourishment just by offering them a little bit of love from your heart? Just like, and everybody you cross, you can look at, like if you see a homeless person today, can you look them in the eye? That's nourishment. If you see a person on the street, can you just offer them love? Especially if there's someone that you would have previously compared, everybody should get your love, but maybe you would have looked down on them, or maybe their actions, whether it's be how they drive or how they hold themselves or what they're wearing, just offer them a little nourishment. When one can be content with being, are you content with being? Because being means you're not comparing or praising or condemning those around you. You're just being, and not require comparison or praise, as we just kind of covered. It is said they invest in their life by making of it a donation. You're investing in your life being a donation, like offering it to others. And that's beautiful. And you can do that. We can all do that. And in so doing, we will be more like water. Thank you so much for joining me for this. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.